It is April the 29th at 6 p.m. And all the committee members are present. Myself, Chair Mr. Dale Black and Mr. Tab Matney. We also have David Deerhog, who is the BDS director, and our city administrator, Brandon Madden. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor to public comment for anyone who has a comment on anything that is on the agenda. All right, hearing none, I'll move to reading and approval of minutes. What do I hear on reading and approval of the minutes for March 1st?
Move for approval.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the ayes have it. Next, we'll move on to the reports or communications from city officers. Mr. Deerhog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two brief items tonight. First, I'll give you a budget update. Right now, ideally, we would have at least 17% of our budget remaining, and we have 31% of our budget remaining, so we're in really good shape there. And I'll just remind you that this week is the final week for business license renewals that are due before the deadline. So we have been seeing those steadily come in, more so this week than in the previous weeks. It's been busy in the office this week.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right. Do you have anything, Mr. Madden?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Next is unfinished business, and we do not have any, so we'll move on to new business. Mr. Deerhog, our first one is an ordinance approving a major change to the Centerpoint Plan development.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Bear with me just a minute while I resize the screen here. Okay, this item is a request to make a change to the Centerpoint PD. The change consists of amending the use description for about 21 acres that are located at 356 Bridgeway Boulevard. The applicant has requested to change this description from office building, which is shown here in the middle of the screen on the display right now. Again, this is the existing preliminary development plan. The proposed preliminary development plan is to change it from office building to office, commercial, and institutional. And this is to accommodate a prestigious charter school. They have not released the name of the school for confidentiality purposes, but the school is proposing to move into the facility that was recently vacated by Samsung. The school has indicated they are under a compressed timeline. They've requested special consideration for the city council to hold an additional special called meeting during the month of May so that both first and second reading for the ordinance to change this PD can be completed in May, and that will help them to meet all their target deadlines so that they can open up in the fall of 2022. I'll give you a little bit of background about the charter school. They provide a K through 12 curriculum. The school strives to be an engaging and innovative community that educates students while integrating enriched math and science curricula. One of the ways that this school stands out is that they also strive to develop an understanding of environmental sustainability, renewable energy, and technology to enhance students' achievements. The school's proposing to undertake renovations to the existing facility that will entail creating 54 classrooms, art, music, science, and science labs, a cafeteria, and indoor gymnasium. The school doesn't plan to alter the footprint of the facility or the parking. The only modifications to the site proposed at this time are the provision of outdoor athletic and physical education areas and an outdoor playground. This is a a bird's eye drawing of that. The boxes show the area of the playground and the athletic field that will be along the periphery of the building. And here's just another look at that. The school building that's labeled in the middle is where the existing Samsung facility is. And you can see in the green boxes where the athletic field will be located and the playground will be located. Holland Road is the road that kind of runs along the top of, well, the top middle of this drawing, just to orient you. The Jackson Marketing Facility is on the left-hand side of the page, and on the top of the page will be where the future Bridgeway Station project will be developed. This went to the Planning Commission for their review earlier this week. There was no public comments provided during the public hearing for this item, and the Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this change to the plan development. And staff has also reviewed it and found it to be a positive change to this plan development. It's consistent with the development along Holland Road, especially when you consider that there are a few other educational facilities already located along Holland Road, including Mauldin Middle School, Mauldin Elementary School, and the Golden Strip Career Center. Therefore, staff also supports and recommends approval of this change. And one more note, we would like to propose that if the committee would like to forward this to council, that we do so at a special called meeting that has already been scheduled for city council next Thursday, May 6th. And that concludes our report for this item.
Okay, I have one question. The athletic fields are going to be in the front of the building on Holland Road?
They'll be fenced in.
Okay.
And they'll put something along the lines of like a nice wrought iron fence along there.
Thank you. All right. Any questions for Mr. Deerhog? Mr. Black?
Chairman, David, I think I saw on that last slide you had on there at the intersection of Center Point and Holland, there's a proposed traffic signal at that location. Is that correct? Next one back, I think. That one. See where the circle is, there's the landscape intersection signal funded by developer.
Yeah, there will be some traffic signals installed on Holland Road, actually more so as part of the Bridgeway Station project. That's been part of their traffic study that they've done for that project.
I just want to clarify it. I noticed that on there, and I thought that was just the developer years ago had put some money aside for a traffic signal at that intersection. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Matney, do you have anything?
Only to make the motion at the appropriate time, Madam Chair.
Okay, I believe we're ready for that motion.
All right, Madam Chair, I move that we forward this to full council for review with recommendation for approval, and that consideration be provided for a special call meeting of City Council to accommodate the applicant's timing.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of forwarding this to full council to the special called meeting on May the 6th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, those 3-0 ayes have it. Okay, so our next item is number B. Ordinance to rezone property consisting of approximately 43 acres located at SC Highway 417 and Interstate Highway 385. Mr. Deerhog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to rezone 43 acres, as you just indicated, located at Highway 417 and I-385. The request is to rezone this from C2 commercial to RM multifamily residential. The property is currently undeveloped with the exception of 2 old homes that are owned by the property owner. TCC Venture is planning to develop this site for attached single-family housing with possibly some multifamily housing along the interstate frontage. The site was annexed into the city of Mauldin back in 2018, and at the time it was annexed, it was speculatively zoned commercial for marketing purposes. That zoning assignment at that time was supported by the future land use map and the comprehensive plan, which designated this area as a regional corridor. Regional corridors described as intended for the most intense commercial uses, including big box retail, drive-through restaurants, large shopping centers, and automotive service centers. Since that time, TCC Venture has been working towards a prospective residential development for the site. The primary focus of their development will consist of attached single-family homes, but as I indicated, they're also considering some multifamily housing along the interstate frontage. They held a neighborhood meeting for this project a few weeks ago, and at that meeting, TCC Venture shared three separate conceptual drawings to depict some of the different concepts that they might be considering for this site. And again, they're just purely conceptual, but I'll show those drawings right now on the screen as far as what was shared. This first drawing, labeled as Layout A, shows primarily solely all attached single-family housing, more focused towards the back part of the property, with the front part of the property remaining open for future development. The next layout they shared, Layout B, again is all attached single family or townhomes, but this includes some townhomes along the front part. And then the third concept they shared, labeled Layout C, shows the townhomes taking up the majority of the site, primarily to the right of the screen, with multifamily housing lining along the interstate frontage, with some buffer still in between there and the front piece remaining open for future development. These were, again, just purely shared for just some different conceptual renderings to show kind of along the lines of what they might be thinking about for their development of this property, but nothing has been finalized as far as any layout or development goes. In addition to the neighborhood meeting, there was also a public hearing for this week with the Planning Commission. There were a few people who spoke at the meeting, including some for and some against. The people who were against or voiced opposition to this rezoning cited concerns such as traffic, the number of vehicles, access, turning off of Beechwood Drive, about tying the road into the Beechwood Drive and some aspects relating to that road, as well as concerns about wildlife. And at the neighborhood meeting, there were a few other extra concerns brought up, like crime and my notes, questions about wetlands, and again, traffic, desires for no development on this property and such. At the public hearing, some of the voices in support of this project voiced favor for actually downzoning it from the current commercial to residential, fearful that actually if it was developed for some of the commercial things that are allowed in that district, that would be worse for that area. And also there was someone who spoke and gave some clarification about a little road that you see on this layout that spurs off to the right and ties into Beechwood Avenue. There were some questions about that road and why it was needed, and it was indicated that would be something they need to provide some secondary access according to the fire marshal, and so that's one of the concepts they were looking at. And so someone at the public hearing was able to speak about the history of that little abandoned drive area there and how it's owned and stuff like that. At the Planning Commission meeting, the staff also presented its findings, which are included in your report. I'll just briefly highlight some of those findings. We find that the comprehensive plan, even though it supports the commercial aspect of it, there's also support in the comprehensive plan for this type of development as well, especially when you consider the residential nature of what surrounds this property. And the comprehensive plan even goes so far to say that it finds that growth in the elderly population, the shift toward 1 and 2 person households, and general housing affordability issues have increased the demand for smaller housing. And certainly this project helps to meet some of that demand. There are some floodplains and wetlands along the border of this tract, but for the most part, the bulk of the tract is still considered developable and suitable for development. We talked a little bit about the compatibility of this development, and it's an interesting property because it's right in between a residential neighborhood and a busy interstate highway. So we would expect that it would be developed for something that would help bridge that transition, if you will, and certainly don't find any fault with this type of development for creating that bridge. The infrastructure is all there, available to meet the project. And as far as the public need for this project, again, we just highlighted that with some affordability issues we're seeing in this area and some demographic trends we're seeing generally overall, that this project meets a need. And so those were the staff's findings. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Deerhog. I do have a couple of questions. Maybe for the owners or development.
Yes, and there is a two representatives here for this project tonight.
Madam Chair, committee members and staff, my partner Eric Hedrick, my name is Ron Johnson. We are partners with TCC Venture. We're representing the applicant, Spinks Investments, Inc. And we have studied this for quite some time with Spinks, and we believe that the downzoning into a residential component certainly meets with the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood.
So I have a couple of questions. And I know that we're looking at just conceptual drawings. Are any of these going to be targeted towards 55 and over? Because I know some complexes and different building areas are, or is it?
Since I am one, but no, ma'am, this is, we're calling it for market rent at this point.
Okay. All right. And so that's, that was my next question, was pricing. Are these rentals or are they for
It will
sale?
be, at this point, we're thinking a combination of both, but as all of us know, we study the market like everybody else, and we're trying to see what is the best thing to do. At this point, we're considering both rental as well as for sale.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Mr. Black or Mr. Black?
Chairman. David, what's the question tonight is to rezoning from C2 to RM, correct? And then when they once present their proposals, that has to be approved and gone through for the conceptual drawings and all that for this whole project. All we're looking at tonight is a rezoning request from C2 commercial to RM multifamily.
Yes, that's correct. So this would, if the rezoning is approved, that'll enable them to take the next steps, have a little bit more confidence in investing additional money into the project and starting to create their plans. And ultimately, for any subdivision of this project for townhomes, that will go back through review with the Planning Commission.
I just want to get that clarified. I thought I heard that last night. This is just for a rezoning request at this time. And once, if it's approved, and then they'll go with their conceptual drawings of what they propose to put on the property. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, Mr. Matney. All right, okay, what do I hear on a motion to approve this rezoning from C2 commercial to RM?
I move that we forward this on to full council for consideration by the whole body with approval.
All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I'm going to start the discussion. I just have some information that I would like to share. It's more just for consideration of the woodlands. So today I read the comments from the public who attended the public meeting regarding this property. I also attended the Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday via Zoom. While I agree that the proposed rezoning from C2 to RM is more favorable, some of the comments and Mr. Van Splinter's email give me pause. Ms. Woolard, who is on the Planning Commission, asked why there was no buffer between the properties. The response was because it's in the county. And I believe that she was speaking of the homes on Beechwood Drive. But I was puzzled by the response because I wonder if the homeowners along Beechwood Drive don't deserve to have a buffer between their property and the new development because they're in the county. Mr. Van Splinter mentioned all of the wildlife that he sees because of all of the trees on the proposed development property. I would like to offer the following information as something to consider before clearing all of the trees for development. This information is from a guidebook titled Conserving Wooded Areas in Developing Communities, Best Management Practices, and it was in Minnesota. And that can be found at files.dnc.state.mn.us. A balanced development approach includes the conservation of wooded areas and other natural resources. Successful conservation of wooded areas and individual trees requires active participation of all people involved in the land development. Properties surrounded with trees have higher market value than treeless properties because trees are part of the property infrastructure. In addition, trees provide a healthier and more pleasant living environment. A windbreak on the west and north of the building and shade trees on the east and west of the building significantly reduce the cost of heating and cooling. Trees clean the air by filtering dust particles, absorbing gases including carbon and nitrogen compounds, and releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. A community forest provides recreational and educational opportunities, as well as environmental benefits and wildlife habitat. Decision makers, natural resource managers, landowners, and citizens are increasingly concerned that the urban biosphere is at risk under current land development practices, urban sprawl. Destruction and fragmentation of wooded areas and farmlands, loss of individual trees, and loss of wildlife habitat threaten the ecological integrity and functions of natural systems and the quality of life in urbanizing areas. The social benefits of trees include health benefits, aesthetic values, recreational and educational opportunities, and screening and privacy. Research has shown that a walk in a wooded area can relieve psychological and emotional stress. Wooded areas and trees provide mental comfort and relaxation because they feel serene, peaceful, and restful. They add beauty and character to the landscape, neighborhoods, and properties and enhance quality of life. The next article I read was Conserving South Carolina's Working Forest at state.sc.us. Urbanization is currently the primary cause of deforestation in South Carolina. Urban areas continue to expand into adjacent rural lands. In most cases, this rural land development reduces the area of economically and ecologically product forest land. The loss of forest land to urbanization will continue to be a major concern for the future. Many landowners enjoy multiple benefits from their property, such as recreational use, wildlife viewing, and scenic beauty. Now, I understand that this property is most likely not a working forest, but the information contained in the article is relative. Protecting trees, which provide many health benefits and also protect wildlife habitats, is very important to me. Therefore, I would like for the owner and developer of this property to consider leaving a buffer between the development and the homeowners around Beechwood Drive and preserve clusters of trees throughout the development for future homeowners or renters in the development. It may possibly be a great selling point when prospective home buyers see protected wooded areas in the development. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we support some of the findings you said. My partner over there, Mr. Hedrick, he owns his own commercial landscaping company. And as Mr. Deerhag knows, when we come back before SAC and so forth, if we're fortunate to get our rezoning, buffering is always a huge part of the component when you're trying to see how you're going to live peacefully with your neighbors. So we have, at the neighborhood meeting, for example, we went into great detail of how we would see fencing the private drive area as well as creating berms and buffers that would separate our development from the surrounding neighborhood. So we agree with you. It's one thing to try to keep the trees. It's another thing from a marketing standpoint, as well as our vision is walking trails, dog parks. We've got 2 or 3 areas in there that we think will be very conducive for that type of thing. So our goal is not to come in there and scrape everything off and start that. So.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Matney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've kind of gone back and forth on this. On the one hand, certainly love to have commercial development coming into the city, and it brings a lot in terms of revenue. However, I'm well aware after talking with a number of parties that while commercial may have been the initial desire for this site, that it hasn't really moved in that favor, and it has trended more toward a residential feel. And if you look at the existing uses for 3 of the 4 surrounding areas, they're all residential as well. So while I feel that, I do feel that full council needs to have input on it, and I'd like to hear some other members' thoughts, but as of now, I would lean very heavily in favor of moving this to a residential component.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Black, do you have anything? Okay. All right, so all in favor of sending this to full council for review, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. The ayes have it. 3 to.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Deerhog, the next on the agenda is item C, an ordinance to rezone property consisting of approximately 6.1 acres located at Service Bay Road.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. As you indicated, this is rezoning for 6 acres at Service Bay Road. They are requesting to rezone this from C2 commercial to a planned development. The property is currently occupied by After School Plus, Dance Arts, and Greenville Gymnastics, and they're also undergoing construction right now for the expansion of a new gymnastics facility and indoor soccer facility. Britt Real Estate plans to continue to develop this site for additional commercial, recreational, and self-service storage facilities. Now, most of the uses that the applicant intends to develop are already allowed under the current C2 zoning. The main reason why this is coming to you to be rezoned as a planned development is for the ability to incorporate the storage facility that they are proposing to be part of this project. The project is divided into 5 zones. Zone 1 is what's already there, and Zone 2 was just recently constructed. That's where they have their recreation, daycare, church activities, office uses, as well as, I think I listed it all there. Sorry about that. And some education uses. Zone 3 is a small out parcel along Service Bay Road. They've described that in their planned development as retail, restaurant, and office uses, including medical and businesses. And then Zone 4, also along Service Bay Road, is where they are proposing additional retail, restaurants, offices, including medical and business, and some indoor entertainment or recreation, and self-service storage uses. The storage uses would be an indoor facility. And then Zone 5 is labeled on this preliminary development plan as all the other common area, parking, stormwater facilities, and other outdoor play areas. They've given a breakdown of the square footage that would be occupied roughly by each use, and that's included in your report. The architecture for this plan development is described as contemporary. The building exterior finished materials are listed as brick, stone, hardy plank, metal, or a combination thereof. And they did provide some conceptual renderings. Let me just go through a few pictures of this real quick to show what everything I just described. Again, this is kind of a bird's eye view into the site as far as where some of the different uses are. On the right side of the screen, you see the existing buildings and the facility at the bottom there that's recently constructed, labeled as volleyball. On the left side is a future development that they're proposing, which would include the self-storage component along the top of that, with some other vendors, retail and restaurants on the bottom half of this drawing. This is a three-dimensional look into the first floor of that future building, identified as part of Zone 4. Again, you see the storage units, indoor storage units up along the top part of this screen, and the restaurants and retail along the bottom part of the screen. This is a 3D look into the third story of that same building, again with the storage up at the top and an indoor soccer facility towards the bottom of the screen on the top floor. Sorry, this is the old. This is representative of the architecture they're considering for the building. Go back to this. And sorry, there's some old images that are in between here, so I'm going to focus on the latest ones. This again is another one of the latest ones. And this is also another one of the latest renderings for that project. They held a neighborhood meeting for this project a few weeks ago. They did not have anyone attend that neighborhood meeting except for staff and city officials. There was a public hearing earlier this week for this item. There was no one who spoke at that public hearing either. The staff went through its findings during the public hearing and highlighted some of the support that it has for this project, and especially, when you consider this area along Service Bay Road, it appears older and a little depressed, and maybe more than just a little. And so when you look at a potential project like this one, it's kind of exciting because it has the ability and the opportunity to potentially lift up that area and make it help reinvigorate some life into that area. And so we certainly see that opportunity with this type of project. And that was indicative in staff's findings. The Planning Commission voted unanimously 7-0 to approve this project. And during the course of their discussion, they expressed a lot of excitement for the prospect of some new restaurants there, as well as the indoor soccer facility. And there was a lot of praise and accolades given for considering bringing that to Mauldin. So that concludes our report. If there are any questions you have for me or the applicant, he is here as well tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Deerham, any questions? Mr. Black?
Chairman, David, I think there was a little bit of discussion hit on last night at the Planning Commission. In the development like this, is it a requirement in the city's codes for any type of sidewalks up adjacent to the building? If you go back to some of the drawings, it just shows the parking lots coming straight out, I didn't see any sidewalks unless I don't know where some requirement or not, but I think somebody had asked that question last night about.
Yeah, they didn't really go into all the sidewalks that they're going to propose for this site with these drawings. These drawings were really actually more focused on kind of just the building and how it's going to be laid out itself. But yeah, we do get into different sidewalk requirements for making sure there's accessible routes to the entrances, and the parking's all tied together with sidewalks and that kind of stuff. So we'll be working with the applicant to make sure that's all done according to city codes. And when they're getting ready to develop this, they'll need to submit their final development plans for the Planning Commission to review and approve before they can begin construction. So we'll obviously take a look at it again at that time.
And I might be incorrect, but I think, with all the parking there, it wouldn't be a safety thing to have some sidewalks up adjacent to the buildings there.
Yeah, and they do have some sidewalks out there now in front of the existing building, but yeah, we'll be.
For safety factor, getting out of the car and getting into the building, restaurants or whatever. I think it'd be good if we can get that in this project. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just to clarify, so the design standards are put in place for the exterior of the building and the planning commission will review those before forwarding it to council.
Yeah, that will all go to the planning commission for them to approve, to give final development approval.
Thank you.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to change the current zoning from C2 commercial to PD plan development?
Madam Chair, move we forward this to full council with a recommendation for approval.
Do I hear a second? All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in approval for sending this to full council for review and approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is item D, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by David M. Adams Sr. et al. And located at Ashmore Bridge Road near Fowler Circle by 100% petition method, and to establish a zoning classification of R15 residential for said property. Mr. Deerhog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm probably going to repeat some of the things you just said. I'm sorry about that, but as you just indicated, this is a annexation and zoning assignment for 100 acres on Ashmore Bridge Road, owned by Adams family. They have requested this tract be zoned R15 residential upon annexation into the city of Mauldin. D.R. Horton intends to develop approximately 266 detached single-family homes on this tract, and the price point for these homes expected to be in the 300s, pushing up towards $400,000 and maybe more if the prices continue to go like they are. There's the applicant's working out a sewer line extension to the Rewa main line along Reedy River right now. The city of Mauldin anticipates owning and maintaining the new sewer lines constructed as part of any development project on these tracks. The approval for sewer will be required before any proposed development is approved, and all the other utilities are going to be available. The tract is currently located in the Mauldin Fire Service area, so the service will not change. As I indicated, this is, sorry, there's a typo in the report, but this is R15 zoning, which is a low-density residential zoning district. In fact, I can't think of having a request for R15 zoning for quite some time. It's one of the lowest density that we have. So certainly that's appealing for this area of Ashmore Bridge Road, where we're seeing a lot of more medium density development going on these days along that area. To have some low density project proposed is refreshing. The price of the homes in this project will be above most of the other communities around there. Now, this is right next to Braemore, and there are fairly expensive homes in Braemore, but D.R. Horton also developed that, and so this will be a great extension to the project they did there. As far as the fiscal impact of this potential project here, we reviewed that and found that it would have a net positive fiscal benefit to the city. And at this time, staff recommends they consider approval of this annexation.
Thank you, Mr. Deerhog. Any questions? So there, I believe, I heard at the Planning Commission, there are 3 access points to this neighborhood.
No, this is not the same one that went to the Planning Commission the
Oh.
other night. This is a new project because it's just at the point of annexation right now. It has not gone to the Planning Commission yet
Gotcha.
for the
Okay.
subdivision review.
All right.
But for the number of homes they'll be having, we do have some representatives for this. Are you looking at 2 or 3 access points for that, Melanie?
Hi.
Giles, Blue Water, on behalf of the developer. So right now for our design, we currently have 2 full entrances and 1 emergency access.
All right. Thank you.
And I think one of those entrances that they're looking at is going to line up with the entrance to the Maple Grove subdivision that's right across the street. Okay. So they'll line up with existing roads, both of them.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to send this to full council, the change the zoning from RS to, in the county, to R15 residential in the city of Mauldin?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Matney?
It's really just a point of clarification that between now and the time this goes to full council for first reading, the ordinance will need to be amended because one of the property owners' names is incorrect in the ordinance. So we can get with that after the meeting.
Okay. I'll get that from you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Okay, all in favor of sending this to full council for changing the zoning from RS in the county to R15 residential in the city, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's have it. All right, next on the agenda, item 6E. An ordinance to amend section 21-4 and section 21-41 in the Mauldin Municipal Code, Chapter 21, Flood Damage Prevention. Mr. Deerhog.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, we want to go back to the previous item briefly. We want to clarify that the motion was for the annexation of that property along with the signing it to the zoning of R15.
Yes.
Want to just make sure that. Do we-
Okay. So it's not annexation and rezoning together.
It may be helpful, Madam Chair, members of the committee, if we could reconsider that.
I was getting ready to ask. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move we reconsider the previous agenda item and vote.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, ayes have it, 3-0. Thank you.
And give me just a minute so I can go back to the other agenda item. We'd rescind the vote on the agenda item. Yeah. So, Madam Chair, I move that we rescind the vote on the previous item, and, well, then we'd need another motion after that. So, move that we rescind the vote on the previous item.
Second.
Okay, so the previous item being the rezoning, the annexation, the rezoning.
Yeah, just
Okay.
item 6D. So you're rescinding the motion associated with item 6D. And then once that is approved, then you can make a motion to approve it as presented in the agenda.
Okay. All right, so we have a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, ayes have it. Okay, so now do we have a motion on the annexation of Adams family property at Ashmore Bridge Road?
Madam Chair, move we forward the agenda item as presented in the packet to council for approval.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. Motion carries. Now we move to 6E. Mr. Deerhog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a text amendment to the flood damage prevention ordinance. This last month, the flood mitigation specialists for the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources met with our city floodplain administrator, who's Stephen Woods, for the reviewing the city's implementation and administration of the local floodplain management program, and to evaluate the city's status as a participant in the National Flood Insurance Program. During the meeting, a complete review of the city's floodplain management program was conducted, and the state representative indicated that city staff was very knowledgeable in the practice of sound floodplain management. Upon review of the city's flood damage prevention ordinance, the state rep noted there are 2 minor adjustments that we need to consider to that ordinance, and these adjustments include number 1, to change the flood insurance study date in section 21-4 to May 4th, 2021. And number 2, to add a clause about the reasonably safe from flooding clause, which states that all permit applications will be reviewed to determine whether proposed building sites will be reasonably safe from flooding, and adding that to section 21-41. I think our Madam Chair, who pointed out there was a typo in the ordinance, will correct that before it goes to City Council. That typo is found on page 2 of the ordinance. I'm not sure what number page it might be in your packet, but on item number 2, it said reasonably some from flooding. That should say reasonably safe from flooding. So we've already made that correction in our ordinance. We'll make sure that's what goes to City Council, should you decide to forward this to City Council.
All right,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. Any questions for Mr. Deerhog? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to forward this text amendment to the flood damage prevention ordinance to City Council for review?
Move we forward this text amendment on flood damage prevention ordinance to full council for discussions and possible adoption.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion carries 3-0. All right, next on the agenda is item number F, renaming of Bilo Boulevard. Mr. Deerhog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give you a little update and make you aware that Food Line is is working towards moving into the old CNS wholesale facility on Bilo Boulevard. And so there has been some discussion about considering renaming that road. And right now, some of the officials from Food Line have suggested a name such as Nourishment Boulevard. And so staff has been working with them to kind of navigate that process, and wanted to make you aware that this will be something you might be seeing coming in future weeks or months. And we also have learned that Bilo Boulevard is a street that has split jurisdiction between the city of Mauldin and Greenville County. So we'll also be working with Greenville County on their approval for any road name change to Bilo Boulevard as well. But just wanted to let you know that that is something in the works right now. It'll come back to you at an appropriate time. But if you had any questions about that, I'd be glad to help as best I can.
So will either Food Lion or someone reach out to the other businesses on Bilo Boulevard to see how that affects their business?
Yes,
And
and that,
financially?
yeah, that, and the county has indicated that that's a requirement that they have. So we'll be working through that process.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Matney?
Not really a question so much as a statement, because I had actually asked Mr. Deerhog about this a couple of months ago for this, for 2 simple facts. Number one, that we were dealing with a corporate entity that is no longer located in Mauldin city limits. And number 2, the brand that is on the sign naming the street no longer exists. So it's a street named for something that doesn't exist anymore. And knowing that we have someone coming in to reestablish a corporate residency in that facility and keeping our folks employed, to me, it just didn't make any sense to have, again, a defunct entity as the name on the road. So I doubt very seriously that there's going to be a lot of opposition from businesses on that road who will hopefully no longer have to drive down a street named for a company that doesn't exist.
Mr. Black?
David, what happens if you say it's a split road, say the business owners out there refuse? I mean, can the county take ownership of it, or what can happen? Because the businesses would have to change their documentation to state the name change, so a lot of them are resistant about doing things like that, so.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem. I think it's a good move, but
and I don't know how the county will handle that if they do meet some resistance, but at the end of the day, it'll be up to them and up to them only. So if you got someone who's not in favor of it, they can still vote to approve that name change.
then it has to be approved with 911 also, doesn't it? Because it can't be
Yeah,
duplication of the same name within a certain area.
and we've gone through that process already with them. And that's where we've ended at Nourishment Boulevard. There was another name that the company liked, but that name was already taken in the county's inventory. So we've gone through that discussions with the
How about
911.
Durog Way? That'd be a good name.
What's that?
Durog Way.
No, sir. That's a terrible name. No one even know how to pronounce that.
Are they like, I'm happy that Food Lion is coming and will take over that building and provide employment for not only our residents, but some of the other employees that they have there. Is that the main or the largest company on that street? The reason I'm saying that is because, if someone else moved out and then wanted, well, let's change the name because I like my name better, or, just concern. That's all I have. Any other discussion? All right. So we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone online? Nobody
They
with their
don't have
hand
their hand
raised.
raised.
Okay, we'll move to committee concerns. Any committee concerns? All right, hearing none, what do I hear on adjournment?
It's time for the NFL draft. Move we adjourn.
All right, do I hear a second? All right, we're adjourned. It is about 6:58.